Hey Rob, that's a great question. I'd like to reply to that. The reason why it really called my attention was because my wife is introverted, and you notice she's here. In fact, it's really funny because I asked her, I'm like, hey, can you help me out with this post? Because I kind of want to include you here. And she was like, do I have to be in the post? Like, do I, like, even if it's there are no people around, she's still kind of introverted. So I run into what you said all the time, or your professor, what he said all the time, in the sense of, if we're to do outreach, for example, go knocking on doors and passing out tracts or something like that. And we know that we're going to split up into teams of two. My wife always, without fail, comes to me and says, baby, you know that I'm going to go with you. I'm not going to go knocking on doors with anybody else. I'm going to go with you, And even though I know she knows how to do it, all of that, her preference is to be with somebody comfortable. So I really resonate with your question. And as I was listening to you, I was actually really thinking about, because I thought about this already all the time. And I was really thinking about, any biblical examples of some introverts, and I was thinking, like, did Jesus deal with any introverts? How did he deal with introverts? Because it's a reality. And I couldn't think of any. I can't think of any. So that kind of sucks. I really wanted to back up my answer with maybe some sort of biblical, foundation, but maybe it's a study that we should go into. But some of the things that I think about off the top of my head, and I'm like you, I can, come out and interact with people, but it's not my preference. I'm a little bit introverted in that way, though most people think I'm extroverted, just because I can roll with the punches. But one of the things that I think, and the reason I brought Vanessa here is because she actually can resonate even more with the question. So I'm going to voice out my ideas because this is my assignment, it's not hers. But then I'm actually going to ask her, what do you think? Because she's the introverted one. So anyway, the first thing I thought was, perhaps whenever we're in a setting, for example, my wife, whenever we do at church, sometimes we get up and shake people's hands, that little moment of greeting people, hugging people. My wife will always just stay seated, and she will greet anybody that comes to her, give a hug to whoever. She's not rejecting people, but she doesn't get out of and go to people, that's for sure. Another thing my wife doesn't like is, she doesn't, whenever I go to preach to another church and she's coming with me, she always tells me, like, please tell the pastors not to call me. I don't want to stand up. I don't want people to say hi to me. So I just make sure. So all these kind of little things, I'm thinking in a church setting, she has mentioned before that she doesn't like when she's a visitor and they say, hey, all the visitors please stand up, or they call her out like that. So I'm thinking in something like that, or even in that time where you shake people's hands or where you hug, I think that offering some sort of option, and maybe saying, hey, for anybody who's comfortable, anybody who's a little bit extroverted, we're gonna do this. But if you're introverted, do this. My question to you is, that's sort of an idea. Would you want that? Would you want somebody to say, like, if you're introverted, it's okay, you can do this, or would you feel like, I don't want to be exposed as an introvert? I don't know.
I just feel like just leave us alone.
Right, but people don't know who you are.
But why do we need to do something just because we're introverted? How about you just say, hey, whoever wants to do this can do this, and that's it.
Okay, so I mean that's.
You don't have to say those that can want to do this, like those that are extroverted do this, and those that are not because they're more introverted do this. Then you're putting people in boxes. Just be like, whoever wants to participate can participate.
Okay, I mean that's one thing. One thing that I thought was, well, what if somebody thinks, what if an introverted person thinks, people are going to look at me and they're going to judge me because I'm not getting up and doing that. I don't know if that crosses your mind.
I don't care.
You don't care, but
I go to the bathroom.
You go to the bathroom,
yeah.
But like, I mean, do you see what I'm saying? You, instead of staying in the moment and somehow participating in a way
because
that
sometimes people try to force you, like at church.
You can see this. This is good stuff.
At church a few Saturdays ago, they were like, okay, now everybody pair up and do this.
Okay.
And then I didn't pair up with anybody. Me and some other guy were just sitting there, like he was sitting, away from me. But they're like, come on, go. And I just looked at them like, I'm not doing that.
Okay, so
like, I don't know what you're trying to do here.
Okay, so what could what would be a suggestion that now I am coming
Just
to
don't.
you? No. Okay, so the point of worship is that everybody worships, and so what we're trying to Robbie's trying to figure out is there's worship obviously for the extrovert, like doing that is part of worship. But how can you, as an introvert, experience worship and not just simply be left alone for you to do nothing? What would be appropriate for an introvert to do that?
I don't know. I never thought about that. But if there's an activity, don't force everybody to do it.
All right, Robbie. This has been long enough. Do I have to be in this video? You're already in it. Okay. This is long enough, so I don't want to make this any longer. But we were talking while off camera, and basically this is a conclusion that we came up with. This is coming from an introvert. I posed the question, okay, how would you deal with the participatory part? You know, not simply saying, oh, because the first number one thing that she said is like, you don't even have to say if you're extroverted, if you're introverted. Can you use the phrase I like what you said? Simply,
if you feel comfortable, please get up and greet each other. Like,
okay, that's it. Just simply saying like, if you feel comfortable, go ahead, get up and greet each other in the sense
and then you do not say, if not, stay seated. You just leave it at that.
Okay, cool. So then I posed a question and said, well, how do you deal with the participatory part of your question? You know, the whole everyone should participate. And so I feel that if we just say that, then the introverted person may simply not participate. So that's what I said. And you know, how do they participate in being an introverted? And then she said a very, very great answer, which was that the way she participates, she still participates, is by allowing people to come to her, and she's still gonna hug and she's still gonna shake hands and greet people, but she's not the one doing it. And in that sense, an introverted is participating. So I'm thinking in the sense that you, like in a group prayer,
oh my gosh,
like,
don't get me started on that.
Okay, so in a group prayer, if I'm gonna take the principle that you just said, Vanessa, I would think that it's fine for you to be in a group prayer, but it like saying some sort of thing like, if you feel comfortable, pray.
Yeah, don't say, hey, can you pray?
Okay, so and you would, I'm pretty sure you would participate in a little group prayer just as long as you don't have to pray.
Yeah.
And that you could participate. So I mean, these are some answers from an introvert. These are great. Thank you very much. I know this was a lot for you to help. All right, Rob. Peace. See you in class.